Could you kindly stand as we bid welcome to the Honorable Premier? Kindly be seated. A pleasant afternoon to everyone. Welcome to June's edition of the Premier's Monthly Press Conference. Yes, folks, we are in the middle of the year. This afternoon press conference is somewhat of an anomaly in that it is being conducted in the afternoon and also in the middle of the month. But do not despair. It promises to be twice as nice. As per usual, the Premier will give his updates from the different ministries, and then members of the press will be given the opportunity to ask their questions. In so doing, you're kindly asked to give the organization that you represent, just in case we have to give you further information at the end of the press conference. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, join me in welcoming to the podium the Honorable Premier of Nevis, Mark A.G. Brantley.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, and thank you very much for joining me for another edition of our monthly press conference. I do start where P.S. Wakely Daniel left off, indicating that this is unusual to have the press conference at this time, but it is, as will unfold during this press conference, largely due to the fact that I have some travels which will take me to the end of the month, and I wanted to keep my commitment to have this press conference every month. And that is why I'm here a bit early, because had I not held it now, I would not have been able to hold it for the rest of June. It is, as he has indicated, halfway through the year, and so I hope to be able to share some information with you and some developments since the last time that I was here. Let me start, ladies and gentlemen, with a word of thanks. I want to extend thank you to the Circle of Care, St. Kitts and Nevis, which is headed by Janet Maynard and her team in Canada. They would have over the weekend held a very successful fundraising activity in Canada, and I was invited to speak. Mr. Vaughan Anslin, renowned local artist, was the guest of honor, and I think we had a really wonderful time. I want to publicly commend Janet Maynard and her entire team. She's supported by a large team of individuals, and indeed to commend our brothers and sisters in Canada who continue to contribute in a meaningful way to the development of the island home. And when I say the island home, I mean both St. Kitts and Nevis, because it is a Circle of Care of St. Kitts and Nevis. Now, a lot of people aren't familiar with them, but just so you know, especially during COVID, they send a large quantities of products, cleaning and other products, and their mandate is to look out for the elderly and the indigent. So I wanted to publicly record my thanks to them for their hospitality, and also thanks to High Commissioner Berridge and his team for the hospitality and the courtesies that they extended to me while I was there in Canada for that limited period. I would also wish to apologize publicly for missing the sitting of the Nevis Island Assembly just yesterday. I had been scheduled to return to the Federation on Monday, and that would have allowed me to attend the sitting at the Nevis Island Assembly yesterday. Unfortunately, my flight was cancelled, and so I had no choice but to remain where I was until yesterday, Tuesday. And when I arrived, finally, it was in the afternoon and the session had ended. Having said that, however, I want to commend the Deputy Premier and Acting Premier at the time, the Honourable Eric Evelyn, and the entire team, because I'm told they acquitted themselves well, and that the bill that was intended to strengthen our regulatory framework for the offshore banking sector, the international banking sector, that was passed unanimously, I'm advised. It had support from the opposition benches as well. And so I want to thank publicly the Acting Premier, as of yesterday, the Acting Premier, the Honourable Eric Evelyn, and his team. It just shows that we have depth in our bench, and it really doesn't matter that I'm absent, that the members who are here can adequately move forward in the best interest of the people of Nevis. But I wanted to apologize for missing the Parliament. Now, to my first big bit of news, I want to announce that the Cabinet has determined that there should be a salary increase for parliamentarians here in Nevis. On around the 22nd day of February 2024, incidentally, let me advise that this was a statement that I intended to make yesterday in the Parliament, but since I missed the Parliament, I will make it now. So on or around the 22nd of February 2024, a resolution in the National Assembly increased salaries for federal parliamentarians. This increase did not extend to the members of the Nevis Island Assembly. In public statements by me reported in the media on April 2nd, 2024, I stated that the increases did not apply to Nevis and that the Cabinet of the NIA will have to consider the matter in relation to Nevis. In the past, and as recently as the period 2022 to 2024, public servants in Nevis benefited from a 15% increase in salary, paid in tranches of 5%, with the first tranche being retroactive to January 2022. Parliamentarians in Nevis did not benefit from that increase. The Cabinet of the NIA has been advised that in the past, salary increases for parliamentarians in the Nevis Island Assembly mirrored those in the federal parliament to maintain parity between the NIA and federal parliamentarians. Alternatively, salary increases to NIA parliamentarians sometimes mirrored increases to the public service in Nevis. Put differently, the practice, it appears, has been that whenever there are increases at the federal level for parliamentarians, then there will be some adjustment on the Nevis Island Assembly level as well. And alternatively, when increases have been given at the local level to our public servants, that those have been mirrored as well. You would recall that I indicated that in the context of the recent increases, the parliamentarians in Nevis did not receive any of those increases. The option then for the Cabinet in Nevis was to increase salaries of NIA parliamentarians to the same levels as the increases in St. Kitts, or to increase salaries of NIA parliamentarians by the same percentage as the increase already paid to public servants in Nevis. On the 8th of May 2024, the Cabinet took the decision to increase the salaries of NIA parliamentarians by 15%. That is the same increase that had been given to our public servants in Nevis, and that will be effective June 1st, 2024. This will maintain the position of parliamentarians vis-à-vis the public service in Nevis, but unlike public servants in Nevis, this increase will not be retroactive. So the increase to parliamentarians will commence on the 1st of June and will go forward. It will not be retroactive in terms of that increase. For the avoidance of doubt, the 15% increase in emoluments to the NIA parliamentarians will apply to the President of the Nevis Island Assembly and all members of the government and opposition benches, effective June 1st, 2024. Just so that the public is aware, I know these are always delicate matters, and in fact I had said when I spoke, and it had been reported on April 2nd, that we were studying this, and to be quite honest, we had input from the Ministry of Finance, and we as cabinet members took some time, took several weeks and several different sit-ins. There were various scenarios posed. But one of the concerns that had been expressed is that with the recent increases to public servants, there were in fact some permanent secretaries that were being paid at a higher rate than their minister. And we wanted to adjust that. And we wanted to, of course, maintain the parity, because it seemed to us a little anomalous that a permanent secretary who is instructed by his or her minister would actually be paid at a higher rate than his or her minister. And so at the end, we decided that adopting the position where we would maintain the parity between public servants and those in Parliament, that was the best approach. And so that is the decision. We will then have to take such steps as necessary to ensure that that decision is carried into effect. But the other option, as I said, would be to have adopted a position similar to that adopted in the federal Parliament, and the Cabinet decided in its wisdom that it preferred to use the yardstick of our public service in Nevis and what our public servants had received. And they had received 15% paid in tranches of 5%, retroactive the first 5% to January of 2022. And as I've indicated, there will be no retroactivity here. This is going forward. So I wanted to make that announcement at the top of the press conference. Let me make another very important announcement. I know that our friends in the United States Virgin Islands, and in particular in St. Croix, have been clamoring for some airlift. We could not say anything until we had settled matters, but we have now done so, and I am pleased to announce that we will shortly be launching a service by Cape Air direct from St. Croix to Nevis, St. Croix and the U.S. Virgin Islands. That service will commence on July 12th. We do apologize for the late start, so to speak, but there were some negotiations that were necessary, and Cape Air indicated they needed time to load the flight. So that service will start on July 12th, and this route will offer convenient twice-weekly flights operating on Fridays and Sundays direct from the Henry E. Rolston Airport in St. Croix to the Nevis' Vance Amory International Airport. We anticipate, of course, that this will bring relief to many of our nationals who live in St. Croix and who have been trying to find a way to come home. As we know, for many years, Nevis was served by Coastal Air, and Mike had become quite famous. Everybody talked about traveling with Mike to and from St. Croix. Mike is no longer in business, and as a consequence of that, we have suffered. And so Cape Air will now take that up. Flights will be Fridays and Sundays starting on July 12th. And so all of those in St. Croix have been calling and who have said that they want, of course, to get organized. We are urging them now to book and to keep those flights full. Please help us to fill those flights and to make that route a viable route into the Vance Amory Airport. So commencing on July 12th, we will have flights on Cape Air coming on Fridays and Sundays from St. Croix, Henry E. Rolston Airport to the Nevis' Vance Amory International. I would also like to report, members of the press, that the government is now in the final stages of acquiring some lands at Garner's Estate, just over 30 acres of land. Garner's Estate, some of you might be aware, is where we had the innovative housing program called University Heights, where in fact land was offered to returning university graduates at a mere $1 EC per square foot. Those homes are now largely complete, and we have decided to purchase an additional 30+ acres of land in that area. Those lands will be subdivided, and we will be offering those lands for sale to citizens and to citizens in the diaspora. We are engaging with the members of our diaspora in particular, and we recognize that many of them have disposable income and would like to invest at home. And so we want to create an easy avenue for them to buy a piece of land. We want every Nevisian to own a piece of the rock. And when I say Nevisian, if there are those in St. Kitts who want to come over as well, they're welcome. We are looking for persons to invest in land, and the government is acquiring this land in order to allow persons to invest and to have a piece of the rock, to have a stake. And we are, as I said, especially appealing to our people in the diaspora. So those that I spoke to in Canada, those in the United States, the United Kingdom and elsewhere, that the government will be subdividing this land and making it available for sale to those who are desirous. Garner's Estate is a beautiful area in St. James, with majestic views of the coastline and of the ocean. It is in the mountains and therefore quite cool, and we are hopeful that persons will find it attractive. And so we will come back with that more, and you'll hear more, no doubt, from the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation. Let me switch to a matter that is also of some interest, and that has to do with the completion of our 2021 census. I say 2021 because that is when the census should have occurred, but of course because of COVID, the period was extended. We normally try to do censuses every 10 years, and the last one would have been in 2011. This one, therefore, should have been completed in 2021, but it is now being completed. And I want to thank those at the Statistics Office here in Nevis and those in St. Kitts who would have handled this particular process. As we know, census is quite important. The information gathered is critical if we are to plan and have sensible policies put in place. I think the numbers are interesting members of the media and members of the public, and that is why I decided that I would take a moment just to refer to them. The population has grown, and the 2022 census population count turns out to be the largest enumerated population on record for St. Kitts and Nevis. The population has been recorded at 51,320 persons. This is as at 2022. 51,320 persons. That's the largest population on record for the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. But what I find is instructive is that the last time that we had 50,000 people living in St. Kitts and Nevis was in 1960, 64 years ago. And so since 1960, we have never had 50,000 souls living in St. Kitts and Nevis. Every census since 1960, we had a flood of persons leaving in that 10-year period of the 70s and that 10-year period of the 80s, and indeed that 10-year period of the 90s. It is only starting in 2000 that we started to see the population starting to increase again. In fact, what I find is instructive is that we have had a situation where the population in St. Kitts actually decreased in the last census, 2011, while that in Nevis had increased by some 15% during that same period. And so Nevis was where we saw the increase in 2011, while St. Kitts' population actually went down. This time around, St. Kitts has rebounded, and the statistics are telling us that for this census period, the population of St. Kitts has now grown by 9.2%, moving over the period, from 2011. That would have offset the decrease in population in St. Kitts of 0.8% that was recorded in 2011. So, Nevis this time around has registered a 7.4% increase in 2022, and our population has increased by that number. The growth is lower than I made a mistake earlier, I said 15%, 10.5% growth that Nevis registered in 2011. So let me just be entirely accurate. In 2011, the population in Nevis grew by 10.5%, while the population in St. Kitts fell by 0.8%. Now in 2022, the population in St. Kitts has grown by 9.2%, and that in Nevis has grown by 7.4%. So put differently, the population in Nevis has increased over both censuses. It increased by 10.5% in 2011, and it has increased again by 7.4%. The population in St. Kitts decreased by 0.8% in 2011, but has now increased by 9.2% in 2022. And the overall population has therefore grown by some 1,169 persons. That appears to be the position, and we are, it appears, moving now in the right direction in the sense of where we're headed. If you wanted the distribution of that population, the island of St. Kitts has 38,138 persons as of 2022. That is 74% of the population. And the island of Nevis has 13,182 persons, which is 26% of the population. So that is the distribution as of 2022. But when you go inside the numbers, and this is perhaps for me particularly relevant, because as you know, I'm the parliamentary representative for the parish of St. James, the parish of St. John, forgive me. On Nevis in the parish of St. John, we registered the largest percentage change. We grew by 15% over the period, following a 32% increase in 2011. So St. John continues to be the parish of choice in Nevis, because we grew by 32% in the last census, and this census now we've grown again by 15%. St. James and St. Thomas's also saw significant changes for this census, with 12.4% growth in St. James and 9.5% growth in St. Thomas's. However, Gingerland, St. George, I want to appeal to the people of Gingerland, because there was a 7% decrease in population for St. George, and that follows a 2.7% decrease in 2011. So St. George's population has been decreasing, initially by 2.7% in 2011 census, and now 10 years later by an additional 7%. Whereas St. John's increased by 32% last census, and in this one has now increased by a further 15%. St. James and St. Thomas's also saw increases, and St. Paul's has remained fairly constant. So there wasn't much change in relation to the parish of St. Paul. St. Paul is historically the smallest by population in the island of Nevis. And so not much change there. And so I wanted to share those numbers. I wanted to share them in particular because we have had much said by Prime Minister Drew and his government about creating a sustainable island state. And it is a vision that is shared by myself and by the Nevis Island administration that I'm privileged to lead. But we cannot talk about sustainability just in terms of renewable energy, just in terms of the economy, or in terms of the environment. We must also talk about people and population, our human capital, if we are to create the sustainable island state that we've been talking about. And I'm hopeful that members of the press and public would agree with me that 51,000 people is far too few to develop St. Kitts and Nevis in a sensible way. When we take out from that 51,320 those who are elderly, those who are suffering from some type of disability, those who are young, very young, children, we realize that our productive pool is incredibly small. And put bluntly and shortly, we need people in St. Kitts and Nevis. Now, is it that we will be inviting our people to have more children? And even if we invited them, would they be minded to do so? I believe that societies around the world have shown that as societies have become more affluent, they have had fewer children. The days in St. Kitts and Nevis when people used to have 10 and 12 and 15 children, those days are long behind us. And so what is the answer? I had a conversation with some females of childbearing age. And I said to them, would it be possible if the government were to incentivize through tax or other benefits women having more children? And the response that I got was no amount of money could encourage them to have any children. So we find ourselves in a situation, and it's ironic that I'm having this press conference today coming off my trip to Canada, because when I spoke to them in Canada, I realized that Canada is having a similar problem. And Canada, Singapore, Hong Kong, countries around the world, the United Arab Emirates are trying to solve that problem through controlled immigration, by allowing persons to come into the country in order to help to develop the country. That is the reality of our situation, ladies and gentlemen. It is for us to determine what will be the best approach and how we intend to approach this, but it is clear. And just to give you context, members of the press, my research tells me that the island of Bermuda is 21 square miles, but Bermuda has over 65,000 people living on 21 square miles. St. Kitts and Nevis together is 104 square miles, and we have 51,320 souls, the highest population we have ever had since we started to do a census. It means we need people. We need people. Not a question of space, because we had ample space. I tell people all the time, look along the south coast of Nevis. You may find some animals over there, but nothing else. Look along the lands in St. Kitts, the former sugar lands, thousands and thousands of acres, square miles, nothing on them. We need people if we're going to develop. Country needs a tax base. The country needs human capital in order to develop. And so it is up to us. We're either going to grow organically by having more children. We're going to import labor and allow a more open border policy in relation to allowing people to come in. Or the third opportunity is, to my mind, to encourage our people in the diaspora to come home. And those are, for me, the three available options to us. It may ultimately be a mix of all three, but based on the response I got from those ladies, having more children may not be in the mix. So, I leave that there and move on. Let me say a word about our Nevis Mango Festival. This year we're celebrating the 10th anniversary, and it will happen from July 4th to 7th. This year marks the first time that we are spreading the event over 4 days. Normally it's 3 days, we've added a day. Tickets are currently on sale for the Mango Festival events, and they're available at the NTA office downtown Charlestown and also online. The event promises to be bigger and better. We noted the concerns raised by patrons last year, and we have responded. The entire MGR park will now be utilized. We'll have multiple entrances and exits, and we have 50 chefs engaged to provide a wide variety of mango-based samples. We'll also be introducing this year a VIP lounge, and that will be available for those desiring an ultimate VIP experience, and that will be catered by private chefs in the lounge. So we look forward very much to persons being a part of it. The NTA is still asking for volunteers. They're hoping to have 100 volunteers, and if you're interested, you can call them at 469-7550 to sign up. You can also log on to nevismangofest.com, nevismangofest.com, for details about events, ticket prices, etc. The St. Kitts and Nevis Restaurant Week will be held during the period 11 to 21st July and will feature the local themed ingredient papaya. Popeye, papa, whatever you want to call it. On Saturday the 13th of July, the Nevis Tasting Showcase will be held at the MGR Park. So, we're going to have the Mango Festival from July 4th to 7th, and then we go into the Restaurant Week, and on the 13th of July, the Nevis Tasting Showcase will be held at the MGR Park. Patrons will get the opportunity to sample papaya-themed dishes from participating restaurants. Tickets will shortly be on sale for that event at US $30 or EC $80. The 2024 taxi training course for prospective taxi operators is currently being held and will be held during the period June 17 to 21st from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Nevis Red Cross building. 65 persons have registered for the course, and they will be exposed to topics such as destination awareness, professionalism, entrepreneurship, and the tourism taxi ordinance. Over the past several months, the demand for taxi operators has steadily grown. It is hoped that out of this current cohort of trainees, that demand will be met. Let me commend all of those who have stepped forward. 65 persons have stepped up, because it tells me that they recognize that there's value in the tourism industry and a dollar to be made in the taxi business. Those persons must be commended, because it means that they will be investing, more than likely they'll be buying a vehicle, or they will be in the employ of somebody who's already in the business of taxi and tour operations. I want to commend them and to encourage other divisions to step up. There is an abundance of opportunity on this island, but you can't sit back. You must step forward and seize these opportunities. In terms of entrepreneurship and training, I am proud to announce that the vendors at our Artisan Village were exposed to entrepreneurship training during a workshop which ran from June 4th to 5th. On the first day of the workshop, the vendors were exposed to National Bank's digital payment platform during a presentation at the MGR Park, and on the second day, they were exposed to entrepreneurship training at the Artisan Village, and that was facilitated by Mr. Noah Mills of Census. 20 persons would have participated. In relation to Pinny's Beach, I am very proud to announce that that project, they tell me, is at 92% completion. Currently, work is being done on the section of road closest to the sea, and the access road to the beach is being prepared. Completion is expected in time, well in time for Culturama 50. When completed, the project is expected to boast over 100 parking spaces, a new and upgraded road network, new and upgraded landscaping, lighting, bathroom facilities, improved drainage, security facilities and installations, and we're going to have, of course, the amenities that one would expect there. People used to complain, for example, that they would have to use the bathrooms at the restaurants. So that will now no longer be the case. We're going to have our bathrooms, we'll have proper security accommodation as well, and we expect to have that whole area involving the MGR Park, Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park, and the Pinnies in a single go-to, must-go destination for entertainment and leisure. That was the intent, and I believe that you ought to go and see it for yourself. I am prepared to wager that when our brothers and sisters come home for Culturama and our homecoming celebrations, that they will be amazed at what they see. And I hope that they will be pleased. Members of the press, let me also give you an update in relation to the Bath Stream Upgrade project. That project is moving closer to completion. The visitor center, toilet facilities, and change rooms are now 90 to 95% complete, with only minor electrical and cosmetic works remaining to be done. Work has already started on landscaping the grounds and the laying of flagstone pathways. A new gazebo is being constructed, and that will be completed by the end of this month. The roof of the pool shed has been retrofitted with new wooden shingles and will be repainted. Retiling and resurfacing will be done in the pool. New signage will be added. Works are well underway to complete the entrance road and parking spaces on site, and as such, vehicular traffic into the Bath Stream Yard will be restricted for the next few weeks. The continued understanding and patience of the general public is solicited while we make these important upgrades for the comfort and convenience of the general public and our visitors. Let me also point out that the FCCA, Florida Cruise Association essay competition, that all primary and secondary school students are hereby reminded of the essay competition. The topic this year, how can my country and cruise lines work together for more sustainable cruise cause? Essays must not exceed 500 words in length and must be submitted to the Ministry of Tourism not later than Friday, the 5th of July. Attractive prizes such as laptops and touchscreen devices can be won in this competition. Please contact your school or the Ministry of Tourism for more details about the FCCA essay competition. I end the update from the Ministry of Tourism on a sad note. We would want to express our very deepest condolences because we have learned of the passing of former taxi operator Mr. Evan Douglas. He served the tourism industry in Nevis for many years. He will be remembered for his diligent and efficient service in offering tours and transfers to our Nevisian guests. The Ministry and tourism stakeholders in general wish to extend our deepest condolences to the family and friends of the late Evan Douglas, and I add my quote as Premier of Nevis to those condolences, and to say that our hearts are with his family at this particular time. We have, in the context of tourism, if I can just shift the focus a bit, seen a significant rebound in terms of our fortunes here on the island of Nevis. And we are in particular seeing a phenomenon which we are hopeful will continue, and that is that the usual low season has not been so low in Nevis in the last 2 years. In fact, it was only recently that the Four Seasons, our flagship, had a buyout during June. That is usually unheard of. Normally by April, May, the season nosedives and there's no business. Last year we had business until late into the year, and the Four Seasons is indicating that it's the same this year. In fact, they're telling us that they have another buyout, I believe it is in July, where the entire hotel will be sold out to a group. What we're seeing is in terms of our numbers. I have said here in the past that one of the things we do at the ministry to track performance is to look at the tax collections, the revenue. And there's a 2% tourism development levy that is paid by hotel guests and paid on restaurant meals and the like. And I think it is instructive as we look at the traditional off-season that for the month of June, we would have collected from that 2% tax $324,248.33. June 2024 is up 14.22% over June 2023. And June 2024 is up 99.09% over June 2019. Now, June 2019 was the last full year that we had before COVID. So we normally use that year as a benchmark. So it gives you a sense of how our off-season has improved dramatically, because June 2024 is up 14.22% over June 2023 in terms of our receipts, and June 2024 is up 99.09% over that same period in 2019. Now, just so I'm clear, members of the press, remember that these numbers are reported a month after. So I'm saying June, but in reality, these are collections for the month of May. I hope that is clear. So the collection is done in June, but it would be for the previous month because it's paid over to us in arrears. Year to date, our numbers from our tourism development levy are up 5% over where we were last year. And last year, recall, we had a record year insofar as TDL was concerned. Culturama is in the air, and let me report that we are now 38 days away from the start of the 50th anniversary of the Nevis Culturama Festival and our grand homecoming celebration. Plans are progressing at a pace for the staging of the festival, which begins on July 25th and runs for 13 days until August 6th. We have had the Pageant concert series, which were organized by the Nevis Cultural Development Foundation, and that was part of the Culturama 50 activities. That has gone off incredibly well. Pan lovers have supported all the staging of the concerts and been entertained by the rich talent of pan players across St. Kitts and Nevis. The grand finale of the Pageant concert series will be held on Sunday, July 14th at the home of Pageant concert series, the Malcolm Guichard Recreational Park at Pinnis Beach. Last Thursday, the TDC Senior Kaiso Monarch Contest staged night 1 of a series of warm-up tents for the Kaiso season. 10 Calypsonians performed at the Old House Cafe on Pump Road to a large and appreciative Kaiso audience. A follow-up tent will be announced shortly. So, Calypso lovers, look out. We have a lot in store for you. On Thursday, June 20th, the 6 contestants, that is tomorrow, the 6 contestants vying for the title of Miss Culture Queen, the 5 contestants vying for the title of Miss Culture Swimwear, and the 5 Mr. Cool participants competing for the title of Mr. Cool will be sashed by their sponsors at in-house private event at the Montpelier Hotel. The Nevis Culturama Committee thanks the title sponsors of the Miss Culture Queen pageant, These are the Bank of Nevis Limited, along with individual sponsors, National Bank Group of Companies, Carib Breweries, SKN Limited, Queen City Bar and Garden, Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation, Census Nevis Development Bank, and SL Hosford Limited. The committee also wishes to thank the following sponsors of the Miss Culture Swimwear Contest: Caribbean Lottery, Zanzibar Nevis, Carib Jack Group, Caribbean Digital Displays, and First Federal Credit Union. An equal expression of thanks is extended to the Nevis Tourism Authority, Nevis Cultural Development Foundation, Nevis Water Department, Nevis Culture Armor Committee, and the Ministry of Agriculture for sponsoring the 5 Culture Armor 50 Mr. Cool contest participants. On Friday, June 21st, the Republic Bank Mr. and Miss Talented Youth Pageant contestants will be revealed during a much-anticipated ceremony at the A.L. Evelyn Building on Main Street, Charlestown. 6 schools will compete in this year's pageant: my alma mater, Ivor Walters Primary, Charlestown Primary, Joyce and Libert Primary, Violet O.J. Nichols Primary, St. Thomas's Primary, and Elizabeth Pemberton Primary. The Nevis Culture Armor Committee expresses gratitude to the Republic Bank, the title sponsor of this year's pageant, for their increased 50% sponsorship of the prestigious pageant event. This year marks 3 years that Republic Bank has been the title sponsor of the Mr. and Miss Talented Youth Pageant. The committee also thanks the individual sponsors of the schools: Clive Evelyn Construction, Lefco Equipment Rental and Construction Limited, National Caribbean Insurance, Nevis Cooperative Credit Union, Odi Brisbane and Grace Foods, and Nevis Air and Seaports Authority. An afternoon of excitement and entertainment awaits you, so you're invited to come out in your school colors to support the contestants. On Saturday, the National Bank Soca Monarch Teaser number 2 tent will move to the freshly renovated and reopened Queen City Bar and Garden, starting at 8 p.m. right here in Charlestown. 19 groovy and power soca artists will perform their competition songs for the highly anticipated and exciting National Bank Soca Monarch Contest, which takes place at the Cultural Village on Thursday, August 1st, as part of the Culture Armor 50 activities. And then next Tuesday, the Nevis Culture Armor Committee will host a media conference at 10 a.m. That is Tuesday, June 25th, at 10 a.m. At this conference, the committee will provide updates to the media, make several important announcements, and release the final core and fringe calendar of activities for Culture Armor 50. The conference will be broadcast live on Vaughan Radio and various social media platforms, including NTV. In terms of the venues, all major construction is nearing completion at the cultural complex and the cultural village. Tiling, painting, landscaping, and cleanup operations have begun, and the project managers assured that both venues will be ready well before the start of Culture Armor 50. After the construction, vendors, patrons, performers, technicians, security, and medical personnel will enjoy a safe, healthy, and enhanced environment to party and work during the Culture Armor 50 festivities. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been having a problem on the island with water. And I've spoken on it time and time again here because water is life. It is a critical component of anything that we do as we seek to pursue a sustainable island state. We have indicated that the development of water services on the island of Nevis was intended to take place in 3 phases. Phase 1 had to do with increased storage capacity, and we have added tremendously to our storage capacity by installing new tanks, modern tanks all across Nevis. Phase 2 had to do with new distribution, and we have removed all the old cast iron pipes and we've replaced them with modern polyurethane pipes using modern technology, and that has also been done all across the island. I think members of the press will well remember the traffic nightmares we had over the years as the workmen were digging up the sides of the road to lay these blue pipes. I'm sure you all remember seeing them. Well, that phase 2 is also now complete. We're now therefore at the 3rd phase, which is to find more water. I believe that the experts might debate how the staging should have been done and how the phasing should have been done. But we opted to go with storage, distribution, and then when we find more water, we have the storage and distribution already in place for that additional water. We have signed an agreement with a company from Trinidad and Tobago, and they have given various times and dates when they'll be here, but they now indicate that they will be on island the week of July 6th, and that they will start drilling immediately. We're anticipating that we'll have some preliminary works being done in advance. The drilling order of the wells were adjusted based on expected yield, drill time, well development time. We know under some pressure because there's been some water outages, some water rationing, and we know we have culture armor that's coming and thousands of people are going to be on the island. So we are certainly looking to do the very best we can. We would have liked the Trinidad company to deploy earlier, but that did not prove possible. So they will be here the week of July 6th. Now, based on all the technical data and findings and analyses that have been done, they are now indicating that the first well will be done at Camps. They will then drill at Madden's estate. They will then go to Madden's tanks. They will then go to Hard Times and then to Braziers in that order. Camps, they expect to find water at a depth of 70 meters. Let me use feet. Camps, they expect a depth of 230 feet, and they think they can find water there within a week. Madden's, a depth of 426 feet, they are estimating 2 weeks. Madden's tanks at 772 feet, they estimate 2 weeks. Braziers, 968 feet, and they estimate 2 weeks. Of course, these are only estimates, but that is the expected run of how they will attempt to get water to us as quickly as possible. The water from location 1, that is Camps, will be pumped into the Camps tank and boosted up to Spring Hill tank and gravity fed to Jessup's and areas in between. We also would have reported that we're working on a desalination plant. Drilling is expected to resume by the end of this week. We had regrettably to halt work as repairs had to be done on the drill rig. I'm told those are now complete. The roof of the pump house has been poured and the site for the solar panels is being prepared. Installation of the pumping equipment is expected to start in another 2 weeks. Let me switch to the all-important Ministry of Education, Library Services, Information Technology, Youth and Sports. Registration is now open at the Department of Sports for the 2024 summer camp. Activities on the calendar for this year include cricket, netball, football, tennis, basketball, and swimming. This year, the Department of Sports will be partnering with the Emmanuel Richards Football Camp, which will be celebrating its 15th anniversary. We encourage you to register your children at the Department of Sports, located upstairs Reliable Motors Complex on the corner of Bath Road. Children ages 6 to 16 are welcome. The Ministry of Education and Sports, TDC, Renaco Morton Primary School Cricket Tournament begins June 24th with a grand final schedule for July 11th. 8 primary schools, 7 public and 1 private, will participate in this year's edition. Games will be played primarily at the ETW Park, but there are a few games scheduled for the VOJ and Hard Times fields. We encourage parents and cricket enthusiasts to come out and support our future national, regional, and international stars. The Leeward Islands under-19 female team is currently having a training camp right here in Nevis. This is in preparation for the upcoming Cricket West Indies under-19 tournament. Sarah Gandio, Carlisa Pluck from Nevis are part of this training camp. We also want to take this opportunity to congratulate the following young cricketers from Nevis: Mr. Onaje Amri and Mr. Carlin Tuckett. They're currently, I'm told, on a tour to Ireland with the West Indies Academy. In addition, we also congratulate Mr. Carlton Pluck and Mr. Light Brown for being selected to the Leeward Islands under-17 cricket team. Both Light and Carlin, I believe, play for Brownhill. So I wanted to say that. Mr. Pluck was also selected to the Leeward Islands under-19 team. Both teams will be participating in regional competition over the next few months. The ministry will be launching its Netball Academy in the coming weeks. Now, we want a resurgence in netball. The Future Stars Netball Academy will target a selected group of girls from our primary schools in its first phase with a plan to develop them into top netball players. The long-term strategic approach aims to create a conveyor belt of netballers coming from the primary schools, which would help the resurgence of the sport here in Nevis over the next 5 to 10 years. I just want the public and the press to understand that we are looking ahead. 5 to 10 years down the road, we hope to see that resurgence. Youth. The Department of Youth's 19th Annual Summer Job Attachment Program officially commenced on June 3rd with the interview of applicants. The theme for the program is Ready, Roadmap to Empowering and Developing You. This year we have 68 participants enrolled in the program, representing various potential career paths. On June 18th, the training workshops commenced with a view of exposing the applicants to critical pieces of information related to employment-related topics such as building your brand, professionalism, social media and online presence, and financial management. The capacity-building component of the program will culminate with a reverse career fair on Tuesday, 25th June at the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park. As part of the workshop, the young people will have the opportunity to research their career of interest and present their findings in a creative way to their peers and the general public. We invite all prospective employers and members of the general public to join the participants during the activity. This will also provide an opportunity to meet and greet potential employees. The internship component commences on August 8th and runs for a month. We continue to encourage prospective employers to come on board and to give us and themselves a unique opportunity and give our students a unique opportunity to work collaboratively to empower our young people. I have a major announcement from the Ministry of Education, and that is to announce that Ms. Londa Brown, no stranger to education, has now assumed the role of Principal Education Officer in the Department of Education. Ms. Brown has over 2 decades of experience in the field and has provided stellar leadership in various capacities within the department, including in her previous role as Deputy Principal Education Officer. I want to wish Ms. Londa Brown, again from Brown Hill, all the success in her work and to wish her all the best and remind her and the team that education clearly is key. I feel particularly proud that once again this government has demonstrated its confidence not only in our youth but in our young women, because we would have recently elevated Ms. Zanella Claxton to the role of Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, and we have now elevated Ms. Londa Brown to the role of Principal Education Officer. And we commend them and commend all young people who are making a difference on this island of Nevis. Child Month 2024, that was officially launched on June 1st under the theme Embrace Inclusion, Every Child Counts, and that theme aimed at highlighting the need to provide inclusive spaces for all children. We have seen participation in church service on June 3rd and the annual Child Month March on June 14th. Earlier today we saw the first lunchtime talk activity which focused on the benefits of play for our children. We continue to crave the support of parents, schools, and of course the general public for the rest of Child Month 2024. The 2024 Prospective Teachers course would have commenced on 17 June. The Department of Education fielded some 40 applications and accepted 29 persons into the course. The applicants over the next 2 weeks will begin to be introduced to the teaching profession through in-person sessions, classroom observations, and practical activities. In addition, we have 9 teachers who recently completed their academic journey at the Fitzroy Bryant College and are due to reintegrate into the system for the upcoming school year, and several educators who are returning after graduating with their various degrees. We congratulate all of them. Education officials and other stakeholders are currently involved in an Education for Sustainable Development consultation. This is a federal initiative, and it serves to integrate the SDGs, the critical step towards achieving the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. The Department of Education constructed primary school end-of-year assessment has started. Assessments, that's what they call now, we used to say tests, but assessments are administered in language arts, mathematics at all levels, with the addition of science and social studies for grades 4 through 6. Process will be completed with the administration of the assessment in science on Thursday. The assessment will provide much needed data as to where our children are academically. As usual, schools and parents will be provided with the individual student report, which provides insights into the student's performance. We encourage all to use the data to identify areas for support and reinforcement in the summer and upcoming school year. The 2024 graduation season, something that most of us look forward to each year, begins next week with preschool graduations. Below is a schedule of upcoming preschool and primary school graduations. This is a list that I've been given. On 25th June, Charlestown Preschool. Same day, Nevis Academy. St. John's Preschool is the 26th. Same day, Inez Pre. 27th, Gingerland Pre. 27th, Maud Smith Pre. 27th, Combermere Preschool. The 2nd of July, Joyceton Liebert Primary. Also on the 2nd, St. Thomas's Primary. The 3rd, we have Naomi's Preschool. Also on the 3rd, Charlestown Primary. Montessori Academy Pre. On the 4th, we have Elizabeth Pemberton Primary, St. James Primary. Then on the 5th, we have Violet O. Jeffers Nichols Primary. Vernon Lou Pre is on the 8th. On the 9th, we have V&J's Pre. Also on the 9th, Maud Cross Preparatory. The 10th, Montessori Academy. And the 11th, Ivor Walters Primary. School closes and the 2023-2024 academic year ends on Wednesday, the 10th of July for students, and Friday, 12th June for teachers. I'm a little confused here. Teachers are going to end before the students? I don't think that looks... 10th of July, I think there's a mistake here. But school should close for students, we know, by the 10th of July. We wish all our students and teachers safe and rejuvenating summer. Look forward to welcoming them back at the start of the new year, which will start the school year on August 26th for teachers and September 2nd for our students. My updates are coming to a close. The Department of Labor has asked that I say to you that their annual featured summer activity comes with a difference this year. They will host their first Youth Entrepreneurship Expo on Tuesday, 2nd July at the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park. Young entrepreneurs between the ages of 15 and 21 who have a small business or who want to start a small business and are looking to grow and market their brand are urged to seize the opportunity. So normally we have just a job fair. This time around, we are focusing on entrepreneurship. You've heard me use that word at least thrice thus far in this press conference. We want our young people to look to entrepreneurship. It's good when you come out of school to ask somebody to give you a job. It's also good, in fact, some may say it's even better, to be in a position to start your business and become your own employer, your own boss, and in time to provide other people with jobs. We want more people involved. And so the Department of Labor is taking a leap, and they have their first Youth Entrepreneurship Expo. They're calling youth between the ages of 15 and 21. If you already have a business or you have a business idea, come. This is the forum for you. Interested persons can visit the department, and registration forms have been placed at all high schools on the island for registration to be completed by Friday, 21st June. For more information, please contact the Department of Labor, 469-552 extension 6365, or you can email labor.dept@niagovkn.com. The morning session begins at 8:30 a.m. There will be 3 presentations on the following topics: business financial management, business plan writing, and business product branding and marketing. Afternoon sessions start at 1:30 and end at 6:30. They will create the department that is a marketplace for young entrepreneurs who will exhibit their skills, sell their products and services, and engage in networking. And so we're asking the public to come out in their numbers and support our young people on their road to entrepreneurship. A few final but important announcements. The Health Promotion Unit, in collaboration with Lake Health and Wellbeing and Taiwan ICDF, hosted their men's fair dubbed Man Talk on Sunday, the 9th of June, from 3 to 7:30 p.m. at Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park. By all accounts, it was a tremendous success. And I want to thank those who organized it, the partners, but also those who took the opportunity to attend. The general public is asked to note that all dental services have resumed at the Gingerland Dental Unit as of Monday, 10 June. You recall I would have told you that we had to relocate to do some repairs on the roof. Those repairs are done, and the dental unit is back in action. So We are now proud to say that we were able to complete that in short order and that the dental unit in Gingerland is functional again. Social services, this is important. On 22nd May, the Department of Social Services held an annual disaster preparedness training targeted at some 70 recipients of its various social assistance program. The training held at the Red Cross Conference Room would have been a refresher for some participants and for others a new learning experience. Why, might you ask, are we doing this training? We would have informed participants on the different roles of parents and heads of households in preparing for and mitigating disasters. Specific focus would have been on planning and awareness within the family unit. However, additional information was shared on the role of our Disaster Management Authority and other related committees. Participants also viewed real-life disaster events, their aftermath, and how better preparation could have resulted in different outcomes. The general public is asked to note that the LIFT, which was formerly PAP program, the federal program, that verification process has reached its completion date. The process ended on the 31st of May. All active participants on the program were expected to access the LIFT website at lift.gov.kn, access their forms and update information in order to complete a process for their continuation on the program. Participants were informed by phone of the process and given a 2-month time frame. The department also ran an advertisement via Vaughan Radio reminding recipients of their responsibility to complete the process, as well as made officers available to assist clients who were having difficulties with the online process. Currently, there is no new active registration for the program. The seniors recreational groups across Nevis would have held their annual concert on the 6th of June at the Malcolm Guichard Park. Approximately 80 seniors, along with the Honorable Eric Evelyn and ministry and department officials, witnessed an evening of singing, saxophone renditions, monologues, and a skit about old-time sayings. The evening was deemed a tremendous success. The department is encouraged by the participation and attendance and continues to create meaningful opportunities for our seniors to be active and involved in recreation and learning activities as they age. The Barnesgut Breadfruit Festival was held on Saturday, June 8th at the Barnesgut Community Center. This was the 10th anniversary, and I'm pleased to report that it was a resounding success. The department also would have conducted, that is the Community Development Department, would have conducted a basic sewing workshop where a total of some 12 persons would have participated. The workshop would have commenced on April 11th and was held on Mondays and Thursdays. Participants would have learned the art of dressmaking, making shirts, and even scrunchies. Scrunchies, I think, are what ladies used to hold back their hair. Scrunchies, yes. The objective of this program was to enhance the quality of life of women through the enhancement of their skills and knowledge, to foster entrepreneurship and small business in our community, and to empower women in our community by giving them the ability to mend, repair, and alter their clothes and to make new clothing. I would just remind the Department of Community Development that men too should learn how to sew. And so I noticed that the note that I've been given emphasizes women, but we could also empower some men to do the same. Women, they say, are seamstresses and men are tailors, but the art of sewing is important. Closing ceremony was held on Monday, 17 June, in the Barnesgut community. Hard Times Sports and Social Club, they're hosting a fun day on June 16th at the Hard Times Playfield in Rollins, Gingerland. That they hosted that already, June 16th. There will be a bouncing castle that would have happened, and then Camp Refresh will be held on Monday, July 15th to Friday 26th at the Charlestown Secondary School from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. daily. Theme for this year, Fun Summer Experience to Learn, Shared Learning. I just want to emphasize, ladies and gentlemen, that you would have heard of all of these activities that are happening for the summer. The idea is to keep our children active. And I want parents to know that the government is partnering in a number of ways to keep their children active, through camps, to sport, to learning, to a variety of activities. And so it is for the parents to sign up their children and ensure that their children are kept out of trouble and kept active. A very long time ago, when I was that age, we did not have any such programs during the summer. So children got up to whatever they got up to during the summer. Now we're creating more structure And we are asking parents to participate by making their children available and registering their children. This way you know where your child is and that your child is safe during the day while you're at work, and that your child is doing something wholesome and uplifting. Let me just add this final note that the application process for the government's primary social program, livelihood improvement for family transformation LIFT, open for new applicants on Monday the 17th June. The online portal for new applicants is lift.gov.kn. So remember I said that the confirmation or verification process had closed. They have now opened an online portal for new applicants. And you go to lift.gov.kn if you want to sign up for that program. The portal will remain open as registration will be continuous. Persons without internet access or who are unfamiliar with the technology can visit the Social Services Department for assistance. The threshold of $2,500 per household per month still stands. So put differently, if your household is making over $2,500 per month, then you would not ordinarily qualify. If you're making less than $2,500 per month, then you qualify. Lift.gov.kn. And I like the idea that the registration is continuous. So you can come on at any point in time. Centenarian Day is celebrated on May 31st. Presentations were done on May 30th on Nevis to 4 centenarians. Miss Eliza Liebert, Jeffers Liebert, who's 104. She's from Hamilton and she is the eldest person in the Federation. Miss Leontine Clark, she's 100 years old from Chicken Stone. Miss Olga Francis Jeffers is 100 years old from Camps. And Miss Leonora Herbert is 100 years old. She's from Bath. The seniors division, along with family members, were graced with Her Excellency Dame Marcella Liebert, our Governor General, Her Honor Mrs. Hailita Liebert, our Deputy Governor General, Minister Iceline Phillip, and Minister Janelle Nisbet in celebrating this milestone event. I will end my updates with just a note that yesterday, I believe members of the press might have heard that we had an accident at the Vance Amory International Airport. Shortly after 2:20, or thereabout in the afternoon, we would have had a plane, a cargo plane, landing, Shorts Air Cargo Carrier, registration N3732X, transporting cargo for FedEx. And upon landing, it appears that the landing gear was damaged and it caused the tire to collapse and break apart. The aircraft contained 99 pounds of cargo, 2 hours worth of fuel, and there were 2 souls on board, Mr. Carlos Ortiz, the co-pilot, and Captain Augusto Rosas. We would have responded with our fire units and our fire equipment, and I am pleased to announce that all went well. There was no damage to anyone. There was no further damage to the aircraft. The aircraft was stabilized and was towed off the active runway using fire appliance G533, driven by Fire Officer Dorr. About a quarter gallon of foam and water were used to wash the oil off the active runway. The units returned to base and all was quiet. So, thankfully that ended without any tragedy. I'll now open for questions if there are any for me. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Elke Hewlett, Department of Information. Okay, with respect to your announcement about the government purchasing land that it will sell to persons in Garner's estate, was it?
Yes.
Do we know the cost of that land as yet? And
yes.
okay, and would preference be given to Nevisians and residents here on Nevis as opposed to persons outside of the island? With respect to the increase of parliamentarians, does that apply to cabinet members as well? Because I know some of them are not ministers and are not parliamentarians. Also, can you give us some insight into your recent trip to Canada and tell us whether or not you were able to engage with nationals in the diaspora? And also, a little info about your impending journey to Taiwan as part of a federal delegation. And I'll stay here for now. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Hewlett. And cost of the land at Ghana has not yet been determined. But as always, the government will try to price the lands at a price where our people can access. By law, you might know that the government lands owned by the NHLDC are restricted to nationals. We have in the past made some rare exceptions, particularly to accommodate members of our police, teaching, and nursing fraternity, bearing in mind that we've had to import people for that purpose. And so you find that some of those professionals who are not Kiddishan and Division might have access NHLDC housing or land here. But that is the exception, not the rule. And so, yes, nationals can look forward to that. You asked me if we will give a preference to those who are on island. Obviously, they're here, and I suppose they have a natural preference because they're on island. But we will make this available to all of our people, especially those who are here and overseas, all of our people, but especially those who are buying for the first time, because that's also important. Some people who have land already, we're saying to them, well, give others an opportunity to own a piece of the rock. And I have included St. Kitts because, as we know, we have our brothers and sisters over there, and in fact, we have a lot of Kiddishans who trace their roots to Nevis as well. So it is time for them too to come home and to own something on this, the land of their fathers and mothers and grandfathers and grandmothers. So we're encouraging people to come and to buy. The idea would be to have that development sold out in short order, and we want to focus on that. But the details of it, Ms. Hewlett, will come as we acquire the land. I just wanted to get the public ready. In fact, we had hoped to have it ready for Culturama when people are here. It doesn't look like that will be possible, but certainly we start to spread the word as early as possible. Increase to cabinet members. Our cabinet members were not included. We looked at parliamentarians. The cabinet members, of course, are on contract, but discussions are ongoing there, and I do believe that some decision was taken in relation to the cabinet secretary. But in relation to the legal advisor, who's the other member of cabinet, discussions are ongoing. So, but the announcement that I would have made was specific to parliamentarians insofar as all members of parliament, the president, members on the government benches, and members on the opposition benches would now benefit from the same increase that would have been given to our public servants of 15%. The interaction with nationals in Canada, I can tell you it was dynamic, it was truly wonderful. People came from all over Canada. As you know, it's a big place. Many drove for well over an hour to be there. And I really admire the outpouring of support for the St. Kitts Nevis Circle of Care and what they're doing. As I indicated, it was a fundraiser. So we had a sumptuous meal, great entertainment, and we had the opportunity to have a few speeches. My message to them, I had a beautiful speech that had been prepared for me. I'm looking at the PS here because he and his team helped me a lot in relation to these public engagements. But I am disappointed to say, PS, that I did not use a speech. I decided to speak, in a sort of, how should I say, extempore, to just have a conversation with them. I just thought the occasion was such a warm, family type occasion that I didn't want a formal speech. So I had a conversation with them. And my message to them, which caused some mirth and merriment initially, was, it is time for them to come home. I tell them it is time for them to come home. And I believe they understood. And for me, what was important was to register with our brothers and sisters in Canada, as I'm hoping we can register with those in St. Martin and in the Virgin Islands, and in the United States and in the United Kingdom, and wherever they have settled, that St. Kitts and Nevis now has tremendous opportunity. We are pregnant with opportunity. And I'm urging our people to come and to take advantage of those opportunities. When I went to Canada, I was fascinated at the sort of, how should I put it, the enthusiasm that I saw among ordinary Canadians. The sort of almost energy you felt as you walked on the streets of Toronto. And I did some walking around in downtown Toronto, and I was really impressed, because you see young people doing extraordinary things. And I reflected, Miss Hewlett, that some of those young people are probably descendants of our people. In fact, I looked at some census numbers for Canada, and in 2021, I think it was, they said that they had over 2,000 persons who said that they were born in St. Kitts Nevis, who were living in Canada. So they have 2,000 persons there. Bear in mind that I met some at this very event who told me that they had been in Canada for 50 years, and some even longer. So it means that those now would have had 2, possibly 3 generations of Nevisians and Kittitians born in Canada. And as I said to them during my speech, they may well now sing "O Canada," but they should also sing "O Land of Beauty," because this is their country, St. Kitts and Nevis. And I want them to rekindle their relationship with their country. And it's an appeal that I intend to take as far and as wide as I can take it. Nevis and St. Kitts need people. We need population. And they need to come home. Matter of fact, I should say here now that I am intending to travel to Bermuda at some point when it is convenient. And my message to our people in Bermuda will be the same. It is time for you to come home. Nevisians and Kittitians might be surprised to know that over 30% of the population of Bermuda trace their roots to St. Kitts Nevis. That's nearly 1/3 of the population there traces their roots to St. Kitts Nevis. And I had a meeting recently with a Bermudan friend, and he said to me that he was able to build a very nice home here in the land of his forefathers for just about $300,000. And I asked him, what kind of home would you get in Bermuda for that? And he said he could not even get a dog kennel. That was his response. And I was fascinated, because I then did some research and found that homes in Bermuda were averaging $1 million and up. And what that tells me is that Bermudans who trace roots here, who have rights here, who are citizens because they are children or grandchildren of our people who went to Bermuda to better their lives, that it's time for them to come home. Imagine that, how far their pensions can go here compared to Bermuda. Imagine what they can build here and create here for a fraction of what it will cost them in Bermuda. And so I think that this is a point of reflection for all of us. I think as we try to level up our society, I think as we try to get to the sustainable island state that we keep talking about, that we must address the issue of population. And if our young people are saying they don't want to have many children, then the only other 2 possibilities available to us are for us to promote greater migration into St. Kitts and Nevis, and for us to say to our people who are out there, it's time to come home. And so while I know that it created some laughter in Canada, because of course people who are there for 40 and 50 years are settled, I'm saying, well, even if you are not coming home, send your grandchildren. Get them acquainted. Let them fall in love. Let them know what it's like to stone a mango tree in Nevis and go down by the bay and get fresh fish. Let them know what it's like to walk in Bath Village and experience to some extent what their forebears experienced. Let them get to know island life, because this is their heritage. This is what belongs to them. And I am persuaded that the same way that they now are investing in second homes and buying a home in Florida and this kind of thing, they could do it here, right here in Nevis. They can build and put their homes on rent and have Airbnb and do all of these things. But invest. Come home. Reacquaint yourselves. So that was my message, Ms. Hewlett, to our brothers and sisters in Canada. Trip to Taiwan. I depart tomorrow, God willing, as part of a delegation headed by the Honorable Prime Minister to Taipei. The itinerary is quite a packed itinerary, but the fundamental reason is because the Prime Minister has decided, and I have agreed with him, that in relation to our engagements with Taiwan, the Republic of China, Taiwan, that we ought at all times to let the government there know that government and opposition are on the same page in relation to our support for the relationship that we've enjoyed with Taiwan. And so the Prime Minister would have invited me on his inaugural visit to Taiwan when he became Prime Minister. And the reason why we're now going back is because Taiwan has had an election and now has a new president. And so I don't anticipate that there will be any future trips together to Taiwan in the near future, because the purpose of this trip is again to present to the president, the government and people of Taiwan, the commitment of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis to this relationship that we've enjoyed for all 40 years of our nationhood. And so that is the purpose behind it. And the trip comes at an inconvenient time. I could tell you that, Ms. Hewlett. We have music festival, we have all kinds of things that are happening. And we have, of course, the final preparatory stages here for Mango Fest and for Music Fest, etc. But, notwithstanding, I thought it was an important trip to take. And so I would crave the indulgence of my colleagues on the island as I go, and indicate that the reason for that is really to ensure that we present a united government and opposition holding hands in relation to our relationship with the government and people of Taiwan. I think the symbolism of that is of critical importance, and that is what we are seeking to do. Any more questions for me?
Good afternoon, Premier Brantley.
Good afternoon.
Donella Thompson, Bond Radio. With various countries across the region experiencing issues with their electricity supply and providing reliability to their consumers, does the NIA and NEVLEC have any concerns of similar problems in the near future on Nevis? Has there been a development in terms of the Ministry of Agriculture's broiler project? And as it relates to the increase in the human resource on Nevis following the census information you would have just given, would the government consider putting more initiatives in place to attract migrants here? And would that ignite a move to support the free movement, which CARICOM would have put forward earlier this year? Thank you.
Ms. Thompson, for somebody so young, you ask some very tough questions sometimes, you know, because I was trying to avoid the discussion as to what the solution is. I said there are options. We either have more children, we promote more migration, or we encourage our people to come home. Those to me are the three options. Which one we ultimately choose, or it may well ultimately be a combination of those options. But I'm not even sure that everybody will agree with me that we need more people. Some people feel, let's keep the island this size and that's, but viewing it from my vantage point as Premier of Nevis, looking at our economic options and our capacity to expand our economy, I know that we need people. I know that we need people. When I can sit with, say, one of the call center operators and hear him say that he's struggling to attract workers to the point where he's now bringing workers. I think he specified Dominica, for example, where he said he's finding workers to come. It suggests to me that we need people. And that is why I keep urging our people, Kittitians and Nevisians, to seize the opportunities. I don't like when I hear young people especially saying they can't find anything to do. Maybe you can't find what you want to do, But as I like to say, you do what you have to do until you can find what you want to do. And it is far better, in my view, to be out there working, even if that's not your career path that you would like, while you keep searching for what you prefer to do. So, sitting at home and moaning and jumping on Facebook and social media to say you can't find a job, when institutions out there are saying they can't find workers, I think is a problem. So we need to solve that. And we've been doing a lot. Government, you hear about youth entrepreneurship that is being done through the Labor Department. We have provided, as you know, seed money to SIDU to finance small businesses by youth and women. We are doing more training. We have started an employment agency, so to speak, within the Labor Department, where people who have jobs advertise them with us and we try to match employees. We're doing various things out of the box to try and encourage our people. But at the end of the day, I think that we have to face the decision within St. Kitts and Nevis that we need people. I use the example of Bermuda, 21 square miles. It means, therefore, that Nevis is 1.5 times the size of Bermuda. But Bermuda has 65,000 people, and Nevis only has 13,500. In fact, Bermuda has more people than St. Kitts and Nevis combined. And St. Kitts and Nevis combined at 104 square miles is 5 times the size of Bermuda. And yet Bermuda has more people than us. And when you look at development around the world, I've mentioned Singapore. I was in Singapore some years ago, and the Singaporean government actually already had a plan. They could tell you how many millions of people they need by such and such a date in order to sustain the economic pathway and their sustainability. So we need to sometimes, I think, look at things in a realistic way. Is it perhaps a bit nostalgic to say, well, we long for a time when we knew everybody in the village and things of that nature? Perhaps. And we can, if we choose, stay with that. At the end of the day, we're in a democracy and we decide. But can we develop? Can we grow? Can we provide the opportunities for our young people especially? The environment where when they go to study, they want to come home because there's something here for them to do. We need people. There's a old joke here in Nevis that you can't have 2 fetes one night because one of them is going to fail. We don't have enough people to attend 2 big functions in Nevis on a single night. We need that to change, and I think we need to work towards it. The actual solution, you say whether or not more people. Now, I have gone on record, because I think the question has been asked of me already, about my view on CARICOM free movement. And I believe the current system that we have, which uses a skills certificate at the CARICOM level, works best for small spaces like St. Kitts and Nevis. That's my view. Why do I say that? Because it allows us still to have an element of control and allows us to grow based on the skill sets that we need. Within the OECS, there is already free movement, so there's no control in relation to that. So if you're from St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Dominica, Grenada, Antigua, Barbuda, etc., you can move freely, as indeed we can move freely to those countries as well. That is perhaps not as troubling because our populations are, give or take, fairly similar. We are the smallest, yes, St. Kitts and Nevis, but give or take, the populations there are not outsized populations compared one to another. When, however, you put CARICOM in the mix and you consider that Haiti alone has 11 million people, Jamaica has, I believe, well over 2 million, Trinidad has over 1 million, Guyana has close to 1 million the last time I checked. If those people were to go on the move, you realize that little spaces like St. Kitts and Nevis could be swamped overnight. And that has been my argument, that we have to manage that, because notwithstanding we need people, you can't just throw open your borders and invite persons to come in and then you have your systems overrun. Because if we were to get 10,000 people into Nevis tomorrow, the question is, can our schools, hospital, roads, Can we sustain it overnight? My answer will be no. I believe that what we need is an incremental growth, but we need a plan to do it. We should be in a position where we can say, we're looking to grow the population by 500 or 1,000 a year, as the case may be, so that we get those 10,000, but we get them over the course of, say, 10 years, as opposed to getting them all at once. So I'm talking about controlled migration, not migration which is open. And that is what countries like Singapore, I keep talking about Singapore because I think it's one of the best run countries in the world. So it gives us a good model that we can follow. Electricity supply reliability, I think that we have done a fairly good job, Ms. Thompson and Nevis, in terms of that. You know, if I'm allowed a moment to be a little mischievous, I recall when the political huskins were hot, I was accused of being a bad spender. Well, I spent money on electricity generators. Today, Nevisians have a reliable supply of electricity. I don't know what next year or the year after will hold, but I can tell you that our supply of electricity has been reliable because we bought not one, not two, but 3 Watt-Siller generators, brand new. And those generators have been pressed into use to serve us. We would like to go to renewables, but until such time, we invested. So whilst we were being accused of squandering money and doing all manner of evil, we were investing in electricity, we were investing in water storage, we were investing in water distribution, we invested in a treatment plant at Hamilton to bring more water. This is what you do when you are a sensible government. So that is why I never really got involved in all the chatter about who's spending good and who's spending bad. Because some of those who were making the noise were not investing. That is why up to 6 months ago the people of Cairn couldn't get little water. Not investing. That is why in St. Kitts, Skellig has had so much difficulties. Not investing. The new government in the federal government has indicated that they're borrowing, how much it is? $40 million, I think, from the Saudis. You know, to do what? Buy generators for Skellig. Well, you ask yourself, if you received billions of dollars from citizenship by investment, Nevis got some pittance over here, and we were castigated to say that we squandered ours, but we invested in water, we invested in electricity, we invested in agriculture, we invested in the hospital, we invested in the water taxi facility, we invested in roads, we invested in housing at Maddens, housing here at Craddock Road, housing up there at Hamilton. We invested in sustainable things for our people. And we were told that we were squandering the money. But with billions received, and you are a wise spender, Skellig only now borrowing money to buy a generator, and no drilling for water. Poor people at Cairn drinking water out of a bucket. I think sometimes our people have to move away from the political rhetoric and look at the reality. It couldn't have been a question of money, because the money was flowing into Bastille. So what was it a question of? So I took all the blows. But the evidence is there in terms of what we spent and what we invested in. Look at our water taxi facility. There's none over in St. Kitts. But why was an investment not made in that? Look at the Newcastle police station. Look at our CCTV command center. And CCTV all around Nevis, connected, if I may add, by fiber optic. Not like some that were knocked up by wise spenders and done with Wi-Fi that cut out every minute. Fiber optic is what we ran in Nevis. It took longer, but it was the way to go. And we funded all of that. So, Ms. Thompson, I'm happy you asked the question, because it turns out that when we were accused of spending badly, we were spending on what was important for the development of the island of Nevis. And in many respects, we are way ahead of our peers because of that expenditure. You asked about the broiler project. I really do not have an update, but I assure you the next time I come back, I hope to have an update. I did not speak to the minister prior to coming here. So I'll punt on that one and come back to you. And then you asked me about, well, I think I discussed the free movement already and the whole issue of human resource and the growth of population on Nevis. Our population has grown marginally, as I said. I think this is 7.4%, but we need more people. That is my view, and that's my conclusion on the matter. Ms. Hewlett?
Elke Hewlett, Department of Information again. While we're on that topic, what is
Which topic is that?
Oh, very correct. In terms of the CBI revenue.
Yes.
What is the present status of the fair share negotiations between the NIA and the federal government? And I think it's about 7 countries worldwide that generate all their electricity from renewable sources. How close is Nevis to putting St. Kitts and Nevis on that prestigious list? And Andre Huey would have sent a question from SK Newsline. Considering the revelation by Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew that over 50,000 passports have been issued under the CBI, what are your thoughts on the future of the CBI program? Should we consider putting a cap on the number of passports issued, or should the program look to phase out over a period of time to transition into another industry? How can St. Kitts and Nevis, on the 50,000 plus economic citizens, how can St. Kitts and Nevis capitalize on the 50,000 plus economic citizens to help grow our economy? That last question again is from Andre Huey at SK Newsline.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hewlett. CBI revenue and the fair share issue, I do not have a report on that. My last meeting with the Honorable Prime Minister, he has promised that we will meet to discuss and finalize that. In fact, it is an agenda item for us on the next joint cabinet. We should have had that joint cabinet already. Regrettably, through travel and availability, we were having some issues finalizing a date, but I know that the 2 cabinet secretaries are working on that. And I am hopeful that we certainly will be able to come back this year with an announcement in relation to that, because I reflected that the very first letter that I wrote to the Honorable Prime Minister Drew, which is his first day at work as Prime Minister of this country, that I raised that as the #1 issue. And that was almost 2 years ago. So August is going to make 2 years. And so he has given me a reassurance that the matter is attracting the correct attention, and I intend to follow with him on that so that we can bring some resolution to that vexed question for the people of St. Kitts and for the people of Nevis. In the meantime, however, let me say that we have continued to receive a monthly amount from the CBI proceeds of some 5.5 million EC dollars. That was the amount that we were receiving prior. And in addition to that amount, the Prime Minister has made certain funds available to the NIA representing 25% of sums that his office are receiving from Taiwan for various projects. And that 25% has allowed us to fund the MJR Park and the additions that we're seeing there. And this year has allowed us to fund all the improvements that we're doing for Culturama. Remember, the improvements are not only at the cultural village and cultural complex, but also at NEPAC, where we had to fix the roof, install new air conditioning, new sewage facilities and the like. So I will say that the relationship in terms of the financial arrangements has been bettered by that amount, which has come in through agreement with the Prime Minister. And I have commended him from this rostrum, and I will do so again, because I was not even aware that the Taiwanese were giving those funds to the office of the Prime Minister. And I was in government for 7 years. So I sat in a government as foreign minister and was not aware that the Taiwanese were making a substantial investment to the office of the Prime Minister in St. Kitts and Nevis each year for that office to then use for development various projects. It is Prime Minister Drew, to his credit, who contacted me after he became Prime Minister and asked me if I was aware and indicated that he wanted Nevis to get some portion of that. The reason why I commend him is he didn't have to call me. He didn't have to say anything. He could have continued what his predecessor was doing, which is take all, get all, keep all, and tell nobody anything about it. Prime Minister Drew did not do that, and so I have commended him publicly for that, because, as I said, the people of Nevis can see where that has gone in terms of the MGR development, the pin is there, and now the venues for Culturama that is assisting. I should also say that it assisted us in paying off our Culturama bills from last year as well. We were able to pay off everybody, make everybody whole. Okay? So that has been of tremendous assistance to us. But the overarching issue of the fair share, we have to come up with a resolution on that, and that is on the cards. But it's a matter of ongoing discussion. Revelations by Prime Minister Drew of the number of passports, I think that was suggested. Wait, before I get to that, you mentioned renewable energy. And when I think Nevis is going to get there, of course our problem has been the perennial problem of financing. Again, we have been working very closely, federal government and NIA, to get financing for this project. I would have had a conference call with the Prime Minister and some potential investors. I do know that they're planning a visit to come here, and we're hopeful that we can get this thing jump-started. We've also, I think, settled. CDB was here just last month, spent a week, and they're trying to settle on the bid documents. I believe that we go back out to market on the drilling shortly. So there's work that is happening. It's just that, for me, painstakingly slow. We do need to get this project on a momentum and a path that we can really start to predict with some certainty when we're going to join that club, as you say, of going 100% green. It, however, is a good springboard for the next question and my response to Mr. Huey. I do not believe that the citizenship by investment in its current form is sustainable. Yes, it has lasted since 1984. But for a very long time, St. Kitts Nevis had a monopoly, certainly in the Caribbean. We now have other players, Grenada, St. Lucia, Antigua, Barbuda, Dominica. We have other factors at work. The EU, for example, has become very hostile to such programs. In fact, just yesterday I saw a report, because there's an ongoing case, which I'm urging the media to follow, of the EU against Malta, going through the courts in Europe at the moment, because the EU is trying to shut down the program in Malta. Cyprus, as we know, has already closed down its program. That might have been due to other reasons, because that program was fraught with fraud and corruption, and so they shut it down. I feel, and if Mr. Huey were to have regard to my budget presentations of the last 2 years, especially my budget presentation in 2022, that is December of 2022, I raised the concern then that St. Kitts and Nevis was too dependent on citizenship by investment. And I offered some suggestions to the government of Prime Minister Drew that we move with alacrity to diversify our economy. Yes, CBI is going to continue to play a role, but since so much about it is outside our control, that we move with alacrity to reform. And this is what I recommended to him and to the nation, and I will do so now again. One, since we have over 50,000 economic citizens, they all have something in common. The vast majority of them are wealthy. Why not develop next door or in conjunction with our citizenship by investment unit, a bespoke agency whose sole responsibility is to engage with our economic citizens? Certainly the Citizenship by Investment Unit already has all their details. They had to do all extensive due diligence to get the passport in the first place. They know how to reach them, how to contact them. Why have we not formulated a plan to encourage those people to visit, to come, to invest? Some of them have homes here because they have invested through the real estate option. But many have never visited. I have shared, Ms. Hewlett, my experience going to Dubai and meeting a gentleman whom I was told was from one of the wealthiest families in Yemen. And he shared with me that over 40 members of his family held Census Nevis citizenship. But none of them had ever visited. And when I asked why, he said it was part of their planning. They live in an area that is volatile, and in the event of something happening, that they had an alternative. So it's like a safety valve for them. And we know how that can be important. In fact, whilst I was still foreign minister of this country, when Afghanistan fell back into the hands of the Taliban, I believe I've said publicly that we had Census Nevis citizens in Afghanistan who were trying to get out. And we were able to get some of them out via Qatar Airlines to safety. So some people have citizenship just like others have insurance. It's something that they invest in to have available to them. But this is one of the wealthiest families in Yemen, holding our citizenship but not having a connection with our country. Now, what if you were able to persuade even 5 or 10 of those members of that family to come here, to invest, to bring their friends, to fly their private jets in here, to invest, to live, to experience? Many of them have the facility of the passport for business and other reasons, but the nexus, and we need, in my respectful view, and if the Prime Minister is listening, or his team is listening, we need to set up an agency whose role is to link with these people. When opportunities, look how we're down here struggling to find money for geothermal. When you have over 50,000 millionaires and multimillionaires and perhaps even some billionaires in that group who might be more than willing to say, when we wanted, and I use this as an example, a CT scan for Nevis, I made a single phone call. One phone call I made to a wealthy individual who now calls Nevis his home. And he said, how much? I gave him the price tag, I think it was 1.2 million or whatever it was. He said, done. A gift to the people of Nevis. And the people of Nevis, and by extension, the Federation, now have a brand new 128 slice Philips CT scan, the first in our history, donated through one phone call. Could you imagine if we had an agency that reached out regularly, sent out a newsletter, engaged, these are the opportunities. Ghana's estate is opening up, there's land for sale. Villas are opening up, development. Business opportunities are opening up. Hotels, resorts, developments of various kinds. Engage with our people. People want to feel a sense of belonging. And I feel that as other countries fight to see how many new citizens that they can get, Census Nevis, which pioneered the Citizenship by Investment program, and I'm very proud of our legacy in that regard, has the opportunity now to move to the next level. And to say we stop fight about numbers now. We have 50,000. Let us now tap into those. Ms. Hewlett, Mr. Huey, through Ms. Hewlett, could you imagine if even 5,000 of those 50,000 were to respond favorably? And say, yes, we want to come, we want to visit, we want to invest? Could you imagine? So I said that 2 years ago. I maintain that. That's one. 2, marijuana, ganja, sensimilia, herb, cannabis, whatever you want to call it. It is high time that we stop taking these little nibbles. We have a big plate of food that we can eat but we're just eating one grain of rice at a time, and we're afraid to eat the grain of rice. And you know something? My trip to Canada over the weekend has fortified my view, because nearly every corner in Toronto has a cannabis store. Man, I never knew you could feel so high walking on the street. I walking down Canada Street and I'm feeling good. I say, oh, what is it that make me feel so good? You're smelling weed everywhere you go in Canada. Because Canada has gone in that direction. Canada has said that this is how we're going to do this thing. And I'm looking and I'm saying, well, a first world country like Canada, modern and everything, and Canada bold and open and cannabis. What we're going to do, license it, regulate it, tax it. And you can go into the store and purchase various products. I went into a store and they had one of those coolers. You know the coolers with the glass door, so you could see what's in the cooler, stand-up cooler. And there were a variety of drinks in this cooler. Things that look like Red Bull, like those kind of drinks, in bottles and cans. And I said to the gentleman, I said, are those regular products? He said, everything in that thing are cannabis products. So you're talking about drink, food, I mean, edibles, various ointments and all kind of cream and, man, you name it. They have it on sale in Canada. And I said, well, look at big Canada, making billions from cannabis. And we down here in Census and Nevis, where people have been going to jail for years for weed, still afraid to take the steps that are necessary. I've recently heard that a young lady, Jihan, I think, Williams, I think her name was Williams, I think she got married. Williams Knight, Mrs. Knight, that she has just been appointed as the new chairperson of the Cannabis Board. And I'm hopeful that we'll finally get some traction, because that Cannabis Board has so far not done anything. They've been fast asleep in terms of moving this thing forward. Even when Team Unity was in office, again I asked people to look at my speeches in the Parliament, because I urged my colleagues at the time to move. Of course, they gave the whole thing over to the then Attorney General, Juicy Byron. So we knew that was never going to move. But now that there's a new government in place, younger people with some vibrancy, for God's sake, get the thing done and get the cannabis industry off the ground. That, I believe, Mr. Huey, through Ms. Hewlett, can provide us with an important string to our bow. So I've mentioned so far, one, a variation on the CBI theme by reaching out to people we already have. Two, cannabis, industry, research, medicinal, and recreational. And three, renewable energy. Mentioned geothermal. Geothermal has the ability to transform St. Kitts and Nevis, and to do so within 5 years. The fourth aspect I would raise is agriculture. We talk a lot about agriculture, but I'm not sure that we are doing enough. I'm very happy with what I'm seeing in Nevis, but Nevis is a small subset. Nationally, I think we need to do a lot more, and we need to deploy more technology. We have in Nevis shade house technology where the youngsters are getting involved and doing an excellent job. We need more of that. We need to expand it. We need more people involved. We need the poultry and the broiler industry to get going. Both St. Kitts and Nevis, because I see agriculture as having some potential to help us to diversify and diversify quickly. So I've just, off the cuff, given 4 ideas, Mr. Huey, that I think can be used to bolster and wean us away. Now, let me be clear. that I'm not suggesting that we stop or abandon the Citizenship by Investment program. I'm simply saying that if the headwinds continue and we start to see a decline in that program, let us not wait for that decline to happen. Let us start to put other things in place now. If it doesn't decline, and I am wrong in my prediction, then that is excellent. It doesn't, however, mean that we ought not to put those other things in place. But if it does start to decline, then let those other things be actioned immediately and as a matter of urgency. Let us do those in order to diversify and ensure that if, God forbid, CBI were removed tomorrow, that we have something to fill that 52% hole that it will create in the national budget. From my vantage point as leader of the opposition, I can't do more than ask and give suggestions. It is for the federal government to implement some of those. Certainly in Nevis, I know we're working hard in terms of the agricultural side. We're working hard in terms of the renewable energy side. But we can't do anything about cannabis on Nevis. That has to be led federally. And we can't do anything about CBI. That too has to be led federally. And frankly, on the issue of opening an agency to engage with CBI nationals, if the Prime Minister and his team were to feel that it is beyond the capacity of government, then hire a private firm to do it. I have no difficulty with that. But let them set up shop. Just so we have the Nevis Tourism Authority, the Census Tourism Authority, let them set up shop and let that agency have the authority. It could well be an emanation of Skipper in Census Investment Promotion Agency. Set it up. But make a concerted effort to reach those wealthy individuals who are already our citizens and tell them what I told our friends and family in Canada. It is time to come home. That is the message if you want a sustainable island state. I think that's it. Any more questions for me? Okay. Thank you very much. It's 4 o'clock. It took us 2 hours. I thought we would have done much faster than that. But thank you all very much for coming, and I hope that I've been helpful, and I certainly look forward to engaging with you again in the very near future, sometime next month. Thank you, and all the very best.